everybody, and welcome to Positivity. We are here with the wonderful Rachel Davis. Hi, Rachel.
Hello.
How are you today, and where's lockdown for you?
I live in Welwyn in Hertfordshire, a village very near Welwyn Garden City.
Oh, amazing. And is it as horrible and rainy with you as it is here?
It's been raining, but actually it's cleared up. So fingers crossed it's going to be a dry evening, because my son's got his first football training back in this evening. So I'm literally eyes, fingers and toes crossed for him to go back to football tonight. He'll play anyway, even if it's raining, to be fair. It's more about standing around in the rain.
Yeah. Oh, that must be such a relief to be able to go back. Have they got strict rules in place and so on?
Yeah, loads of strict rules. Yeah, so they're split into small little teams and just trying to help a 9-year-old understand that he can't touch anyone and he can't actually touch the ball unless he's wearing goalie gloves and just things like that. So God knows how it's going to go, but it'll just be great for him to do something outside of the house, because he's pretty happy being in the house for lockdown. So
yeah,
it'll be nice for him to see
friends again as well.
Yeah, it really will. Yeah.
So this is Positivity, and we so the only thing that we ask is that everybody has a cuppa to hand. Do you have a cup of tea with you?
I do have. I actually didn't know, but I thought, hang on a minute, it's called Positivity. There is no way I'm sitting there without a cup of tea in my hand. So yeah, I nicked my husband's really big mug.
Amazing. That's great.
The whole time.
Is it just a builder's tea, or is it in something special?
It is. It's builder's tea, but I really like Clipper organic builder's tea. So in my tea caddy, my husband does Yorkshire tea, and then there's a kind of like browny looking tea bag that's and actually they're always splitting and falling apart because they're organic and they're not made of plastics. So there's a sort of ethically sound rubbish tea bags which are mine, and here's Yorkshire tea which do what they should do.
No, that's so interesting. We've had lots of Yorkshire tea lovers on Positivity so far, so it's nice to have something different to share.
Yeah.
Amazing. Woo. We will have to give that a try for another episode. Oh, that's great. And what so obviously we've been locked down for a few months now, but everything is sort of starting to return to a new normal. But what is it that you do for work, and has it been impacted by this crazy new world?
Well, I'm a coach, so mostly working in the veterinary sector. I used to be a lecturer in vet school, so I now coach individuals and teams, and I train teams in coaching skills, and I also do a bit of lecturing still, sort of online lecturing on the side. So to be honest, touch wood, I haven't been massively impacted because I went very part-time and self-employed in 2017. This for me is normal anyway, apart from the fact that obviously I'm alongside working, I'm fitting in, I've got an 11-year-old and a 9-year-old, and my husband now working from home. So I used to come home to a blissfully quiet house and have it to myself all day and schedule things around that. And now I'm still doing the work, but with people floating, which you may see today, floating behind me, because I'm halfway between the kitchen and the office. And actually my son's taken over my office as his fortnight zone, which I decided was fine, because actually if I'm working, he has to be on fortnight for me to get anything done. Yeah. So it hasn't, I've worked, yeah, I have, but
have you enjoyed having everyone around and sort of having more family time?
I'm very glad this is being recorded. At some point, my husband and kids might be able to watch this. They can probably hear it. I think that we're really lucky. We live in a lovely house. We've just finished a massive amount of building works. We've got a lovely outdoor space. I'm a teacher at heart, like coaches are teachers, and I was a teacher, lecturer. So I'm actually, apart from the odd blow up, I'm enjoying teaching my son. My daughter teaches herself, but so I kind of enjoy the structure of the morning. We start his lessons, we super zoom through them so that we're done by lunchtime, and then I can work in the afternoon. And yeah, and the great thing is nobody really minds if your kids are walking past, or and I am, as I say, most of my stuff's online. So anyone who used to come here to my house, I see online, and all my courses, like in universities, are online. So yes, I definitely enjoyed it, and I'm nervous about going back to a new normal, because I was just saying to my husband the other night, I've never slept so well. Like, we sleep really well now, exercise so much, just being around. Like, I know so much about the kids now. I know about what they're learning about. And they haven't got all of the dramas of school to contend with. It's just the learning. So yeah, I would say I've pretty much, I'm not saying there haven't been some massive blowouts and blow ups. Mostly my fault, to be fair. But like, if I look back over this whole period, I'd say it's been a pretty happy time for us.
Yeah, and that's so true, isn't it? I think I certainly often forget the dramas that are so important at school when you're that age, and actually with that being removed, how much more they can learn, how much more productive they'll be, but also they're missing the social aspect, of course. But
yeah, it's so bizarre. I thought they'd both be raring to go back to school, but neither of them is. I think my daughter, she's sort of 11 going on 15, and she's moving school to senior school anyway. So in her mind, it's a natural close. And she's just like, I'm moving on anyway. I'm looking to the future. So she's not really pining for her old school because she wanted to move on. My 9-year-old son has ADHD, so he struggles to concentrate in school, and sometimes struggles a little bit with like just managing himself, those executive skills. And because we're working together one-to-one, and I'm kind of his CEO, I can sit in there and do all the admin and organize it all, and he just has to sort of use his brain for thinking and learning. He's flying. He's absolutely flying and loving it. So I mean, who knows, he'll go back to school and what, you mean I have to work out what you want from me, or you mean I have to type this myself? He's going to be, he's not going to be expecting that anymore. But he's learned loads, and he and I get to spend every day just learning stuff. So I like
but hopefully that everyone will take the positive, schools and teachers alike will take the positives of what has been beneficial to them in this time, and hopefully as much as they can. I know that will be really difficult.
It's so hard. I don't think anyone knows how school's going to be in September. It's on everyone's mind. So for all the parents you talk to, we're sort of, there's part of our brain that's being a nurturing parent and worrying about social and all those things. The part of our brain that's happy with how things have gone, and then there's another bit going, what on earth is that going to look like, and am I going to be comfortable with it, and what kind of it is ethical decision making we're going to have to do sending our children back to school. It's weird. I can't see it. It'll be a long time before it's back to normal, and I don't know if it'll. But do I want it to go back to normal? I don't know. I think a few less days at school. We just rushed around. We literally rushed from school to after school clubs to just to keep the children busy. And now we're much more used to just coexisting with them, bimbling along and having lunches together, and the evenings aren't so fraught because you've had the day together. So, and the animals are going to miss everyone. I mean, my animals, we've got a dog, 2 cats and a bearded dragon, and they've just loved it because they've had so much attention. So yeah, the dog's going to get fat.
So, but that's interesting that, so from your side and work-wise, you haven't changed, but have the people that you're teaching, has that made it hard in terms of them adapting to a different environment?
Yes. Well, I already taught on one online program, so it wasn't necessarily them adapting to online, it was what was going on in their lives. And these are adult learners, and they were all having such a wide range of experiences of lockdown, and a lot of them are vets. And I was just, people on my courses were either being furloughed or doing 200% of the work they compared to anyone else. People, quite a lot of young vets as well, locum now because they can't, they're under such pressure as full-time vets. So they found locuming's great. As soon as lockdown came, they were the first people out. So their ability, some people were like, oh, it's brilliant, I can totally focus on this course now and I'm going to really make the most of it, enjoy it. And others were, this is awful, my family are all at home, my kids are off school, my husband's at home, we're all in dire straits, I can't possibly concentrate. So there was a huge range, and everybody was going through this while trying to learn. And that is, so that was, I would say that's true of what I've noticed. I've really paid attention to, so my students, and what their priorities are and what's going on at home for them is so important, whether or not, like I've got vet students who've had to go home who don't have a space to work, don't have a private place to be, or are working in their bedrooms, sitting on their beds, and so they're massively impacted. And I'm sure the same thing if I look at my kids and then talk to my friends and the teachers of my kids, they're all thrown in at the deep end. They're working on tables next to their mum and dad. They're struggling to get Wi-Fi. They're, I mean, it's like everyone's just raised their game. Everybody has had to raise their game. And I suppose the beauty of it is we've all had to do it at the same time. There isn't all that choice about it. We've all just had to muck in. But I suppose my job as an educator is, go on.
Yeah, sorry, no, I was going to say, I think it allows everyone to appreciate that the person that they're teaching or they're being taught by, everybody is human. You know, you just said, you know, your husband walked past, so like that's okay. And Amazon delivery arrives, that's okay, because that's normal life. And I hope that that's what people take from it, that you're allowed to, you know, rush off because you need to go and help your child or whatever. So I don't know if that's
it's really, I mean, it's so true. And especially if I'm coaching and it feels like a very personal, that's difficult. So a one-to-one coaching session, you know, in the old days before lockdown, if the doorbell rang, I would ignore it. And if it really rang and rang, I'd have to say, I'm so sorry, there must be something urgent at the door. Or if one of my kids, which they did, like I'd be doing something late and one of the kids, Henry, would walk in to get his controller, or I don't know, and I'd just be mortified and just frozen, not knowing what to do. Whereas now, it's almost like part of the joy of it, that everything's going on around it, us. I had a student write to me and say, thanks. And I actually, I'm a bit of a control freak, so I didn't know whether to be pleased or not. But she wrote to me and said, just wanted to thank you for that webinar. I loved it that your son was walking backwards and forwards behind you, because it just felt really real and showed you like how messy life is at the minute. And I was like, good, I'm really glad. But I'm kind of also thinking, where can I trap him next time I'm doing a webinar? So two sides of me.
Teaching or
just my son. So it is, you're constantly wrestling with yourself, I suppose, and just trying to be super flexible. And some days I manage it, and some days I'm like, oh.
No, and I think it's okay. I think it's teaching everyone to be more kind. I certainly am being more kind to myself, and you know, you're allowed to do that. I keep thinking about, just from what you said there, I don't remember if you remember from a few years ago when there was a BBC interview and a gentleman was being interviewed and then his children came in, and that was really funny then, wasn't it?
Yeah, and his wife was scrabbling on the floor. Yeah.
But actually that's the new norm. I feel like that's allowed now.
Yeah, and isn't it, I do think that, well, one of the big problems, we've sort of allowed all of this to happen, and then I suppose I'm interested in the fact that people are still having to work the same hours. So, and especially mums, it's definitely happening with dads too, but mums especially, we're working and we're still working the same hours, but with all of the kid stuff going on. So I don't think many businesses have said, we understand you've got the children at home, so we're going to still pay the same and cut your hours because your workload's tripled. So we've got this very lovely, relaxed thing going on, but actually we are doing so much work just to hold all of those things together.
Keeping it all together.
Yeah.
Family structure is so important for everything, isn't it? And just going on from sort of the family structure, you alluded to it a little bit earlier, but you said you've had more time to do more exercise. Is there anything that you've been doing in particular that's sort of helped keep you positive and sane throughout this period?
Yeah, so I've always loved exercise, and I'm always trying new things. I tend to do one thing loads, and then, you know, so I'm just constantly running or constantly spinning or constantly swimming. So I've had a real opportunity now to mix things up a bit. So I still go running with the dog, which I would say is my number one. Like, it's just on my own, out in the fresh air, nobody with me. So that's so important for me to keep that going. But alongside it, I'll obviously have walks with the dog. I'll go cycling. My daughter's, it's lush. She's just taken, like, she's always been able to cycle, but she now gets the freedom of going out for a bike ride. So that's been lovely, just going out for an hour with her. And then my husband and I just started doing gym work with a personal trainer. We were getting to the age where we're like, kind of need to just be strong so our backs don't give in. And So it's completely against every bone in my body to do any of this. But we were meeting at the gym to do this, and we would scream in there into the car park, and then he would go home. One of us would rush up to the school to pick the kids up, and it was always like, whereas now we do it at home, streamed Zoom with the PT and Pilates as well. So that is massive for me to have done every single week 2 weights circuits, and then 1 Pilates, because you can't get out of it. You can't not be at home.
Yes.
You'd feel really bad not to do it. Whereas before it was like, oh no, there's something on at school, or oh no, I've got this work thing.
Yeah.
Whereas now it's early morning, we're in our home. So that's kind of nice. It's nice for Tim and I to do something.
That's so nice, and to do it together as well. And I also think that people are put off by the gym, not necessarily actually being in the gym and doing it, but actually the time it takes to travel there, and the amount of time.
The mirrors.
So yeah.
And the other people you see there, and whereas that's so private, and it really is like in our front room, no equipment, really like just hard work. And I was saying to my husband, it's definitely not my thing. I don't get joy from doing it. It's a bit like, I have to see it like, I'm going to eat some salad today. I'm going to do that exercise because it'll keep me fit and well while I'm aging.
Whereas the running is actually the bit that you enjoy, and that's
joyous bit, absolutely joyous. Yeah. So I would say I've been able to do lots of different types of exercise with all different members of my family, and every single day. I mean, my word, when have you ever exercised every single day? That's of course, I saw a brilliant meme that said, now we know what elephants and rhinos know, you can't outwalk all day grazing. So I was like, yeah, we exercise every day, but we also are enjoying our food and drink as well. So.
Yeah, that's so true. And you said that you've sort of been doing something with your husband and your daughter. So have you taken up Fortnite to spend time with your son as well, or?
No, I have. A while ago, I did look at it and watch it and try to be interested. But now with Henry, what do we do? He's now hasn't been that interested in football, which is interesting because he was obsessed. But one day I just got the skateboards out and popped them onto the patio, and he started whizzing up and down. And he realised I'd let him listen to YouTube videos while he was doing it. So he literally was like Bart Simpson, going up and down outside all the time. So that was really good. And we got him I got him a completely fallen apart BMX and got it refurbished. So he's a brilliant cyclist, but he wouldn't ever understand cycling for distance. Like, why would you do that? So as long as you take him to a curb he can pop off, or some ramps, then he's fine. So it's again learning about the things that your kids like. A bike ride with one person who wants to go really far, and another one who wants to jump off pavements. On that, like, I'm just cycling behind him thinking, please don't jump into traffic, please don't, because his brain is just going to go, massive curve, yes. So I've learned not to take them both on the same bike ride, maybe. But yeah, so
yeah, that's I think a lot of pressure for doing physical activity comes from, you must do this or you must do that, but actually it's finding what works for the individual, and that's the most important thing, to have a positive experience with it.
I did a really cool project with vet students called VetFit, and it was looking at ways to help people who didn't identify as being sporty, because obviously in their youth they'd probably been told by their families and by teachers and friends that they're not sporty or they're rubbish. And so we wanted to introduce them to a wide range of sports so that they could start to see that everyone can find a way to be active, and that'd be really helpful for the extreme pressures of vet school. And it was just glorious. And there was a girl doing rings, those rings and ribbons, which are so unvetty but gorgeous. And they were just doing all sorts of things, and that stayed with me. So I want the kids to be physically active. I would say I really came into physical activity later on. So they don't believe me when I say, look, Dad and I only really came into this and we found things we like. They're like, yeah, whatever. But actually, everything I can do to throw exercise in front of them, dangle it, under their noses. I just also joined the tennis club, found there's a really little tennis club down the road, and it's like £100 for a year for the family. So I just thought, oh God, I used to like playing tennis. So that's another thing, let's see where, and Henry got down there and was literally slicing balls, having never hit a ball before in his life. So It is, yeah. I'll do anything to have everyone enjoy moving. Probably.
Yeah.
They're gonna be seeing a psychotherapist when they're old, saying, "My mum made me do these things." But, yeah.
But once they've tried lots of things, they'll find something that works and something that clicks that they like,
Yeah.
and they enjoy it for different reasons. Like
Yeah.
I love sport for the competitive angle, but that's not to say that someone doesn't love it just for themselves. And to have, like you said about having your own time, your own space, that's probably more important than ever at the moment for you.
Yeah. Well, Stella takes the dog. She puts a little thing on. She walks the dog down. There's a river at the bottom of the road. And I know she does it just for that. She gets a little bag, she puts some sweets and crisps in there, and then she walks herself down, sits on the bench. And she just got a lot of freedom before lockdown. And so I was desperate to find ways to keep her feeling like she was still going to become a teenager and have more independence and have more freedom, because I think lockdowns really impacted children and young adults of that age.
Especially in that transition phase of out of primary school and into secondary as well. So to be able to have something is amazing. Oh, brilliant. And one of my final questions is that I think for me, especially, lockdown has allowed me to binge watch lots of Netflix series. It's allowed me to discover new books, new podcasts. Is there anything that you've discovered or rediscovered through lockdown that you would recommend to anyone? Apart from Fortnite.
Apart from Fortnite, so what have I been doing? Do you know what? That's the really weird thing. We're watching less and less TV because the day's just stretched out, where I'm with Henry in the morning, get a bit of work done, Stella finishes, then she wants. So we've been watching Modern Family, which is quite nice.
Oh yeah.
Because we'd seen the series was ending, so that was nice. And then Tim and I are a big fan of Killing Eve, and so we pick up bits and pieces. But I would honestly say we have watched less TV than ever before. And it's a seasonal thing too, probably, isn't it? We've had such glorious weather. But I don't really listen to podcasts, although Tim keeps telling me I must listen to Louis Theroux, so I might have a look at that. Because I'm a coach, I'm always trying to use any of my walks for like learning. So I am very often listening to textbooks, but more interesting ones like Eckhart Tolle and Daniel Siegel. So I've got like a whole rotating list of books that I re-listen to again and again and again, that just are soothing for me and also are helpful for work. So they're kind of, it's lovely to have books that properly cross both of those things.
Definitely. And I think as well, to go, like you say, something you're familiar with, that's been really nice for me. I've rediscovered books that I read years ago, and and it's just something that you know and feel comfortable with.
Well, my sister, was an English teacher, and she handed over all the books she'd saved to my daughter Stella. So at the moment, she's reading Adrian Mole, which is so dated when you go back, but Tim and Stella are loving that. And loads of Judy Blumes and Paula Danziger, and she's like, "Mum, this book says it only costs £1.20," and I'm like, "Yes, books did 30 years ago. They cost £1.20." So that's been lush. Another actual thing that I have been watching videos of, and then this is so cliched, but we're making sourdough bread. So I'm watching craftspeople, artisanal bakers make sourdough, which is really nice. And the third thing I'm doing is I'm learning Spanish, and I've downloaded books in Spanish. So I just walk around the fields and just listen to Spanish, because actually you pick up loads of little bits and pieces, and it's different. It's not work. It's nothing, because a lot of reading I do is work, if you see what I mean.
Yes, yeah. Oh, that's so interesting. I spoke to somebody yesterday on Positivity, and he's also learning Spanish and has never done it before. So we'll have to have.
Oh, it's gorgeous.
You might have to do an interview to him in Spanish for one of our episodes.
Oh no, I'm not that good. No, I could probably ask him his name and how many brothers and sisters he has, but
and which way is the shop?
Yeah, well, do you know what? I'm not even sure I could do that. But all the things. Do you know what? I think what I found is that I've accepted that every day is different, and that I'm really into trying new things. And I'll tell you what's really helped me, because my day's so full of, like, you know, there's so much more cooking to do, so much more cleaning, so much more child rearing to do, and work, and. So I was feeling really frazzled. Like I was like, I'm feeling so frazzled. And then I just put in half an hour's reading, like treat reading, rubbish, like those terrible books that I don't want anyone to know I'm reading. And in a time when I shouldn't be. Yeah. So like, have you read, what's the one about oranges? There's one at the minute that's a blood orange, I think. But anyway, and I just do it at a time when I shouldn't be. So like bedtime, yeah, I read every night, but that's not a treat. Whereas 2 o'clock for half an hour, I just sit with my Kindle in a little nook, and that's lush. That's really helpful.
No, it is, and I think people often forget to have that, and you know, you almost need to timetable it in, like you said, to allow yourself to have that, because it's just as important as everything else. So I think I need to start doing that as well.
It's relentless otherwise, isn't it? Yeah. You can feel really guilty, but actually I'm a much nicer person if I've dedicated that half hour to just something totally pointless that doesn't help anyone or move anything forward. Or
So I'm so glad that you're justifying why I watched a really cheesy Gossip Girl episode last night on Netflix.
Yeah, you can say a coach told me. She told me that was a really sensible thing to do. Yeah,
with a large glass of wine as well. That was also really encouraging.
Oh, I tell you, I mean, wine's been our saviour. You know, I always just thought, what do people who don't drink do in lockdown? It's such a pleasure. It's such a for Tim and I. It's that point of, you know, it's punctuation, and not only does it punctuate the day, it also it sort of says something about like this meal's important and we've cooked it in this time. So and we have nice glasses, and it's cultural. I'm sure it's not at all healthy because I drink much more than the French do. If I could drink like French people, I'd be fine. But it's been a real I would say has been a positive for us, that kind of connection over. We also have a delivery of gusto, which is just feels like restaurant meals. So there's a couple of nights a week where we feel like we've treated ourselves. You know, just those things are really nice.
And please don't worry about your consumption of wine at all. I'm sure I'm very much in the same category as you throughout lockdown. But all the exercise that you've been doing, that's okay.
I'm sure, yeah. You know, it's really, it isn't. It's almost like a little mini experiment, isn't it? This, if you can just let go and let it be an experiment. And what I actually I've run quite a few workshops, and I've done some stuff on resilience, and my main message is always, you know, when you look back, what do you want to say about lockdown? How do you want it to be? What kind of person do you want to be? What kind of mum do you want to be? How do you want to be? And be that, because you don't want to look back and think that you either really controlled it or you completely went chaotic, or just let yourself experience this totally insane time and let yourself enjoy not having the normal rules. And you know, and yes, that's very hard, particularly if you've been furloughed, if you know, your job's at risk, your house at risk. That's a very blasé thing to say, but actually there's some stuff that is so out of our control, but you can control your approach and your mindset, and you can decide, I'm just going to have it my way, and I'm going to experience it in this way because I choose to. And that's freeing. It's like, oh, weight off my shoulders.
No, that's so true. But it's control the controllables. We can do absolutely nothing about this, but it's how we respond and how we will remember we responded. That will forever be in the memory, because I think this is going to be a time that we look back on for many years.
The kids were saying there'll be like horrible histories about this. And that was like, oh my god, what will they say about us? And then it made me think, right at the beginning with the homeschooling, I was really nervous about it and quite stressed about it and sort of controlling. And then I just thought, what I want the kids to say about it. In the end, is my goal that they've rigorously followed the timetable and have ticked all these boxes, or is it that they enjoyed learning in lockdown? Then if that's my goal, then I'm going to have to let go a little bit, and because I am, as I said at the beginning, slightly a bit controlling. So I was just like, okay, I properly have to, you know, do what I say, you know, because I'm so good at telling other people, you know, this would be sensible, and then not doing it myself. So I was like, no, actually,
No.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
so true. I keep thinking, you know, my grandfather always says about the war and how difficult it was. Is that going to be me to my grandchildren in a few years? Oh, during COVID-19 and how we responded.
Yeah, during the war, during COVID.
Yeah.
I think each generation also will be experiencing it differently. So, you know, my folks, their generation, it's a whole other, you know, the kids, us, the grandparents, everyone's experiencing that differently, and they've gained and lost different things.
I've definitely seen that as well, and being able to embrace the positives of technology, whereas say my grandparents have struggled with that element, and it's their connections to their friends that they're missing. So they are waiting for 4th of July with open arms, where they can be sat at the pub.
Oh well, I'm been looking after a guy at the bottom of my road. He's 100. He turned 100 this week on Monday. Was it? Might be Monday. Yeah, Monday. And he's amazing, and he has a phone, and of course he sort of gets to answer. I don't know what to do with this, and I ring him, and he doesn't know how to answer it and stuff. But the best thing happened. So he really wants me to shop in Morrison's, because that's what he knows and what he likes. So I was like, I'll go to Morrison's, and I said, I'm going to video call you, so you can just say right then and there, yes, those pork pies. No, not that coleslaw. So I WhatsApp video called a 100-year-old man, saying, which ones do you like? What is it? Show it. Oh, back a bit. Which is brilliant. I'll never forget that, you know.
And were all the other shoppers around you thinking, what is she doing?
Yeah, looking at me thinking. And the thing he was most cross about is I'd got him the bowl for the sink, washing up bowl, and he really wanted one fresh. I said, I found one, and of course, being me, I was running through and I grabbed it, and he got home. He said, did you notice there was a hole in that? So he hasn't lost his eye for things like that. But
again, a week later.
That technology's been, I would say, you know, for him, completely isolated. His son's in isolation because he's over 70. The rest of his family live in America and Australia. Technology's just made this so much more. Obviously, they can't have physical contact, but they can. Yeah, you know, that's been amazing. And for me, my folks live in Newcastle. We cannot get there. Can't get there in a day. So being able to sit in someone's garden isn't helpful for us. And so technology is the only mechanism. It's just glorious. I'm so thankful that we've got it.
Yeah. I'm not so thankful for the Zoom quizzes that I'm not doing that well in, but
yeah. Well, do you know what? I've totally given up on Zoom. So I use it for work, and then I was doing loads of Zoom calls, and then my kids would not go on them, and they were like, oh, it's so awkward. Don't make me. I'd be like, get in here and talk to Nanny. And so they after a while, I think I just gave up. So this is excruciating. So I was like, look, I'm really sorry. They're not going to talk to you like that. I'll force them to handwrite a card to you instead. And but really slowly but surely, I've dropped the Zoom calls because I found them exhausting.
Yeah.
Properly exhausting.
No, I agree. I agree. Oh, well, thank you so much for chatting to us today. It's been
it's lovely to talk to you.
Yeah, but my final question before we go is, who would you like to nominate to be on one of the next episodes of Positivity? Someone positive in your life that you think would be able to share some nuggets and gems of their lockdown experiences with us?
Oh, God. It could be anyone. Trying to think of someone who's like, it's really interesting because I'm not like in contact with that many people. I'll tell you what about my friend Jane? We went for Jane Menon, and she's grasping all opportunities with both hands in lockdown. So
that would be lovely. Is she local to you?
Yeah, she lives in Hitchin, so yeah.
Oh, brilliant. Well, we look forward to welcoming Jane onto the show. So thank you very much. Thank you. It's been great to
it's lovely to talk to you. All right.
Thank you.
Have a good afternoon. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday.
Bye. Yay.